Hello, class. Virtual Reinhardt here, or as some people refer to me, VR. Get it? Virtual Reinhardt. Anyway, still a fan of the pause and ponder. That is not going away. So this is going to be short. I'm sorry to say, just a brief look at section 2.8. We are talking about objects, an introduction to objects in the Java world. We looked at the turtle objects and student objects and teacher objects, and then of course string objects. But truth be told, you have looked at int before. There are object equivalents to int variables. They are called integers. They're wrapped inside of an object. You don't need to spend too much time thinking about this, but you can actually create an integer variable of type integer rather than of type int. And you can see that happening here. Notice it says integer rather than int, and double with a capital D. Those are the object equivalents. You don't have to really worry about saying this or this, but you could. That's how you used to have to make it before what was called auto boxing. Auto boxing meaning putting it into an object. Again, not the necessarily the focus of this. We'll get to what that is in a minute. So object equivalents of primitives is what those are. Here is the focus, okay? If you, the reason you need to know about that integer class is there is what's called a property of the integer class. I'm going to try to underline it here, called min value, and a property of the integer class called max value. Those are the largest possible values that Java can make with an int or integers. Okay, so that creates the largest int available to you. And in this case, we'll print it out. So why is there a limit? Well, that's a good question. They'll talk about that in the reading below. The big picture is your variables are stored in memory, and an int variable or integer object variable is stored in 32 bits of memory. Okay, we'll talk about that later, but it's just know that there's a limit. So that is why there's a limit. So if you print that out, that will give you the largest possible value. So here is your pause and ponder. And I want you to pause and ponder lines 7 and 8, okay? If I have print out the minimum value and I subtract 1, what happens? If I have the max value and I add 1, what happens? Are we falling off cliffs here? What's going on? So there's your pause and ponder. Pause the video and think about that and come back in a second. All right, well, here's what happens. It's called underflow here and overflow here. What happens is kind of cool. It's kind of like an old scoreboard on your video game. My video games, where you could flip the scoreboard. And that's what happens here. So here is the min value printed out. Here's the max value. But this is when you subtract 1 from the min value. The min value minus 1. Okay? If you subtract 1 from it, minus 1, look what happens. It actually creates the max value right here. It flips over to the maximum value. So like it goes around in a circle. Similarly, if you add 1 to the max value, which is what this statement is, it actually flips around and underflows or overflows to the minimum value. Kind of interesting. But here's what you need to remember. Like I said, I was getting there. I'm finally there. You just need to know how to call integer min value and integer max value. You need to know how to get those. They'll come in handy for us later when we're trying to find minimum and maximums of arrays and some other lists of numbers. So that's the big idea behind this lesson. So it's not a whole lot. There are some vocab words here that they'll walk you through. There are your answers there. Just, what are primitive types and auto boxing. It's not a big deal to memorize these unless you plan on majoring in computer science. There are some things there. But like I said, what you want to focus on is, do you know how to get the minimum integer, maximum integer, so we can use that later. Otherwise, check out Schoology for your assignment. It's just a quick debugging assignment. And please remember to reach out to me if you have questions, and set up a meeting or show up to office hours. See you later.